Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for our webinar on portfolios. We'll be specifically discussing e-portfolios or digital portfolios to celebrate the launch of our new and exciting portfolios feature. Throughout the session, I want to ensure that you leave with a clear understanding of what makes e-portfolios pedagogically significant. We'll also dig into practical implementation strategies for your educational settings. Finally, we'll explore how powerful and easy to use our portfolios feature is for district administrators, teachers, and students alike. By the end of our time here, you'll not only comprehend the what and the why of e-portfolios, but also have the practical knowledge to tap into their full potential from your very own SpacesEDU account. Just a little bit about me before we get started. My name is Tatiana. I am thrilled to be here with all of you today. My journey, much like yours, has been deeply rooted in the pursuit of student success. As a former academic advisor, I've had the privilege of guiding and supporting students, just as you do in your roles as K-12 educators and administrators. Today, I help our teacher users understand how to use SpacesEDU effectively and identify features that align with our teaching practices while driving positive change in students' lives. I love that we can come together with a shared passion for nurturing the potential of students. Before we go any further, I'd like to highlight that portfolios are an optional add-on for SpacesEDU Pro, meaning it is a paid feature that must be licensed by your district. So I would recommend talking to your district or school administrator. You may already be licensing portfolios and it just might not be turned on yet. We are in the process of slowly rolling it out for everyone. So if you wanted to just double check and confirm, you should do so with your district or school administrator. If you are certain that you're not a SpacesEDU Pro user or you'd like to license a Pro account, feel free to email our sales team at pro@spacesedu.com, or you can simply fill out the book a demo form on our website. I've also put the QR code that you can scan and which takes you directly to our homepage. Otherwise, if you go to spacesedu.com, you'll see the form at the very bottom of the webpage. All right, so we can get started right into what e-portfolios are. E-portfolios an e-portfolio is a combination of process and product, where the process involves ongoing reflection, collection, and curation of digital artifacts, while the product is a well-organized representation of an individual's achievements and development. Dr. Helen Barrett, she's often hailed as the grandmother of e-portfolios, teaches us that e-portfolios transcend mere digital repositories. They are more than just a place to store documents. They serve as a reflection of our students' journey and experiences. So you can think of them as not just storage, but a central hub for the entire student experience. I wanted to share this quote by Dr. Helen Barrett herself on e-portfolios. A portfolio is a purposeful collection of student work that exhibits the student's efforts, progress, and achievements in one or more areas. The collection must include student participation in selecting content, the criteria for selection, the criteria for judging merit, and evidence of student self-reflection. This highlights how critical student ownership is, and the content selection must be intentional. There must be criteria for selection. So how can you decide on the criteria? First, you'll have to determine the type of portfolios you'd like your students to create. The four common types of portfolios are showcase, process, assessment, and hybrid. We'll start with the showcase portfolio, which essentially showcases samples of the student's best work. The content that's added to showcase portfolios is written after the learning takes place, often with reflection from the student. The showcase portfolio is also used to share a student's best achievements or final evidence of learning. These sorts of portfolios can assist with like self-marketing, online branding, or We're building a positive digital footprint for potential employers or admissions officers. As for the process portfolio, this is called the working portfolio, as it contains projects that students are currently working on or have recently completed. The content in this portfolio, as opposed to the showcase portfolio, is added as the learning is taking place, including learning attempts, unpolished work, and reflections on challenges. They promote more self-assessment and reflection, but it's important to avoid the digital dump trap by maintaining organization and purpose in the portfolio. So that's where your guidance is required here as teachers, and really identifying what would a quality artifact look like for each of these types of portfolios in your classrooms. The third type is the assessment portfolio, which presents work demonstrating that the student has met specific learning goals and requirements. Assessment portfolios serve to document a student's curriculum mastery and are more curriculum focused and student centered. They are typically formal, beneficial for demonstrating learning to educators, but may offer limited value for holistic student development. As for the last type of portfolio, this is called the hybrid, basically combining all three types over the course of a term or school year, or you can focus on one area depending on your goals for the portfolio. The hybrid is a combination of showcase, process, and assessment portfolios. Canadian EdTech leader George Koros recommends considering both learning and showcase portfolios with an example of a student's reading development. So for the learning portfolio or learning process portfolio, that student would take a video of themselves reading in 4 consecutive months, as an example, demonstrating all readings over time to see development and growth. And for the showcase aspect, that same student would then pick the best video from the 4 samples. What's really beautiful in using e-portfolios is the multimedia aspect and rich text options like SpacesEDU. You don't have to choose, you can do both. So combining the two elements of these portfolios is great. It provides you with flexibility, and using the portfolios feature within SpacesEDU would also be complementary to any of these types of portfolio, whichever you decide to use and apply in your classrooms. There are a multitude of benefits when it comes to ePortfolios, specifically for students. It fosters a whole child approach, ensuring that their overall development, right? Through ePortfolios, students develop habits, skills, and mindsets for social, emotional, and academic competence. ePortfolios help students learn important digital citizenship lessons as well. They familiarize themselves with using technology early. They learn to build an online presence and purposefully share the learning with the world. By involving students in portfolio development, they begin to have more agency as well. They have an active role in making choices and decisions that shape their learning. As a result, they are able to recognize their own cognitive abilities, direct their own learning, evaluate their performance, and understand that what caused their successes or failures, and learn new strategies. It can also help them learn how to revise. And all of this can be documented in e-portfolios. Now that we've defined e-portfolios and established the benefits for students, we can move on to best practices for each stakeholder. So just to remind you, the stakeholders involved here are school district administrators, teachers, and students, of course. Here are the best practices for administrators. So first of all, you definitely want to explain to teachers how this will help to accomplish district goals. So definitely elaborate on how this initiative aligns with the curriculum. For example, will this strategy contribute to the mastery of core competencies, of portrait of graduate, offensive learning. So be intentional with portfolio sections for that matter. Do they align with the curriculum? So sections are available in SpacesEDU's portfolios feature. I will be showing you what that looks like in a moment. And make sure to include guidelines and resources in portfolio templates descriptions as well. This will be visible to students and teachers alike. So definitely take advantage of that. That way they will have access to that very important information from their accounts. Communicate with your SpacesEDU leads. You want to outline teacher expectations versus what student expectations are when it comes to portfolio development. So what are the responsibilities? Remember, teachers are meant to be guides and students are actively contributing to the portfolio development. And finally, the last bullet point here, I could not stress enough. I would highly recommend facilitating professional development for teachers on digital portfolios, specifically on theory and practice, right? Teachers need to have context. They need to learn about the pedagogy to be able to grasp and understand the application and how to apply the digital portfolios in their classrooms. I think that's where most teachers are struggling in applying digital portfolios today. As for teachers, your primary role is to provide students with the necessary information and guidance to set them up for success. You are there to facilitate and guide, not to micromanage. Remember that. Explain the purpose and the benefits of e-portfolios to students and their families, just like how we did at the beginning of this session. And you also want to decide on the portfolio type because determining the type will help you explain to your students what you expect them to do in their e-portfolios. I would also recommend scaffolding student learnings, which means help students start small. Ask them to choose just one artifact they are proud of each week, as an example. Then you can really determine the cadence at which you'd like them to contribute to their portfolios. So once they select their artifact, have them reflect on the challenges they had to address as they complete their work, or have the students select 2 assignments from different courses, subjects, and then have them reflect on how each of those assignments help them to better understand the other assignment. So I would also say still assign this task to younger students, even if they don't yet have the technological capabilities to necessarily upload content to the platform. I would recommend delegating as much as possible to reduce your own workload. So just teach them how to critically select work, how, explain that they would need to select work that they're most proud of. So at least they get familiar with that process. And regardless of age group, we want to encourage learners to take ownership and pride in their portfolio process. Students are responsible for curating their portfolios based on your guidance, so they can develop metacognition of learning, become active participants in their learning as well. Another valuable tool within portfolios is the multimedia comments section. This section serves as a versatile feedback mechanism, facilitating both open and structured feedback to students. Consider providing information about their current achievement. So where am I now with respect to a goal? Where am I going? And identifying appropriate next steps. How can I close the gap? So be as descriptive as possible. And providing feedback is also an excellent way to motivate students to keep contributing to their portfolios as well. If students realize that you're not interacting with the content, they might feel discouraged or just not, demotivated to keep continuing that exercise or have, make it a habit to populate their portfolios. And finally, leverage your SpacesEDU class to continuously populate portfolios. So as a teacher, you are also able to contribute to each child's portfolio, but your students can also do this whether it's directly in portfolios or from the SpacesEDU class. If you are using SpacesEDU for digital documentation, they are able to copy existing posts into portfolio sections. Um, so you can maybe schedule and assign activities via your class in the various spaces you created to continuously populate portfolios as well. Especially if you're using SpacesEDU for self-reflections on core competencies, this can also be documented in student portfolios. So you could have your students copy those reflections, those posts, into the portfolios and the respective section, for example. So there are five key areas to consider when creating guidelines for your students. First one on the list is duration. Are these portfolios an ongoing initiative? Meaning, is this a whole school approach that follows them from grade to grade, or is it for a specific grade level or a class or subject? Secondly, think about the content. Are students expected to post specific media, or do they have the creative freedom to choose the types of artifacts? Again, that could be something you can establish at the beginning of the term so students understand, what's expected of them. Third on the list is about reflection. Should each post include a reflection? Force reflection until they get the hang of it. I think that's great advice. So some educators say force students to reflect on their work. And of course, if we look at the research and even Dr. Helen Barrett's definition, all posted artifacts of student learning must be accompanied with reflection, self-assessment, and or goal setting. Otherwise, it's just content sharing, right? Repository. It's nice, but it's not really impactful for students' education and growth. What can they be reflecting on? Is it specific standards? Is it competencies, skills? Again, make it as explicit as possible. As for style, this refers back to the type of portfolios you'd like your students to be creating. Is it a showcase? Is it process, assessment, or maybe hybrid? So something to definitely determine as well. And finally, control. Who is in control? Of course, this will depend on the age group you teach, but can there be a gradual release of control as the students become more older and more experienced? So something to dive more into, especially for those who are teaching at the K to grade 3 level. But all of these key areas are incredibly critical and should be, these should lead conversations in your schools and in your class as well. What you want to do is define milestones you like to achieve during the implementation of digital portfolios. How can you break them down into actionable steps? What would be a successful outcome and what does that look like for you? Does success mean having students documenting maybe at least 3 times a year, whether that's November, April, June? Like, do they have to align with the reporting season? So set clear milestones to provide yourself with a sense of direction, and then break them down into smaller steps to make that more manageable and helps you to stay on track as well. And finally, we'll go over the best practices for students. The portfolio will showcase, the students' schoolwork and personal reflections of their learning experiences. So they should be intentional about their artifact selection. Consider encouraging your students to create an struggles or challenges they've faced this year, artifacts that showcase growth, ways in which they've progressed, videos in which students showcase things they've done, demonstrations of newly developed skills that could be through video, work, photography, etc. Specific lessons in which students teach a skill. It could be also an artifact from outside of school that show application or school-related skills, artifacts of collaboration or even independence. videos that address a student's future self or self-reflection. The list really goes on and on. And the exercise that students have to familiarize themselves with is collecting, selecting, reflecting, and connecting, right? You want them to collect artifacts throughout their school year, make that a regular practice. And then from that collection, they'll start selecting the ones that they want to add to their portfolios. And based on their selection, they'll reflect on that work as well and on their growth, on their learning. And ideally, you also want them to connect that um, to curriculum, whether that's through like mastery of competencies or portrait of graduate. So it becomes kind of a full circle moment. That's how we can truly help students develop that meta cognition that we always stress about. So we want to encourage students to also include a variety of artifacts, multimedia, as we just mentioned in that list. And the key here is to also incorporate non-academic elements. That's the beauty of e-portfolios. It could be just an artifact that demonstrates specific skills or competencies, not a worksheet that they completed in class, not necessarily, right? And you want students to also have a place to reflect on teacher feedback, on challenges, achievements, and growth in each post. That could be from within the post specifically, or it could be in the comment section as well. And of course, consistency is key. So you want to encourage students to post on an ongoing basis on, in the portfolio or maybe on a SpacesEDU class so that they can have content they can copy into the portfolios should they wish. So those are some of the best practices we recommend for students. Now we will go ahead and take a look at the portfolios feature from within a SpacesEDU account. We're going to truly dive into the configuration aspect from the district admin's perspective, and then we'll go into utilization for teachers and students. To reiterate, there are 3 stakeholders involved in SpacesEDU's portfolios. We have the district administrators with full permission who create and assign portfolio templates to classes across the district or for targeted schools. And then we have the teachers, the educators, who guide students with expectations and criteria. And of course, we have students, and students are responsible to add artifacts based on the teacher's guidance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log into my account here on SpacesEDU. As you can see, I have 2 tabs I can choose from on the top. I'm going to go into the Portfolios tab here, and as you can see, I have attached or I've been assigned multiple portfolio templates based on my district administrators. I wanted to take a look at the core competency and documentation and reflection portfolio here. And as you can see, you have your class lists on here. You have your different sections as well that have been assigned. And you can contribute to the students' portfolios and then the various sections by clicking the plus media button. You can also see the number of artifacts for in each section and continue to contribute as well. If you wanted to take a look at the portfolios, you can click on the student's name and you'll see there's a description at the top here. This is a summary statement. Students can add a summary statement and personalize it. You can give your students the creative freedom to express themselves here. They could be an about me section. It could be an end of year roundup or reflection, something fancy. It's just plain text. So students can have that creative freedom over here. As your students can also add multimedia artifacts or posts to different sections. So posts can include images, as you can see here, videos, links, audio as well. In a moment, I'll be touching on what constitutes a quality artifact, and we'll go over some guidelines as well. Students, as I mentioned, can copy from their class space or their individual spaces, group spaces, and other portfolios into other portfolio sections. So, and vice versa, students can copy portfolio posts into a space on SpacesEDU. And of course, students can use the comments section here to reflect on learning and view and respond to teacher feedback using rich media as well. You can filter by section on the left-hand side if you wanted a more targeted view of the portfolio, or if you go to the home button here, it just gives you a feed of all the portfolio sections. As mentioned, the portfolio includes 3 different stakeholders. So we have the district admin, the teacher, and of course, the student. Everything starts with the district admin account. So only those with full permissions can create portfolio templates from the portfolio template section right over here. Although most students construct their portfolio themselves, some need more guidance with design and structure, not just students, but teachers as well. So templates must be created by district admins to support those students and teachers that require more structure. Our goal is to obviously eliminate, I'm sorry. Our goal is to eliminate thinking for teachers and standardize portfolios at the district level for admins as well. So streamlining the process of digital documentation for all educators across the district. So as you can see here, from this district admin account, I've created multiple portfolios, or rather other district admins in the same districts have also contributed and created other types of templates. So if I want to create a new one, I would simply click on Add Template right here. And there are a couple fields you'd have to fill out. So definitely providing a name for the portfolio. A description is highly recommended as well, so your students and teachers understand what the expectations are. In the media section, similarly to any spaces in SpacesEDU, you are able to add up to 10 files, multimedia, of course, and this could include things like curriculum objectives. You could include sentence starters for reflections, reflection prompts, any tips on goal setting. So really, resources that would help shape the portfolio and guide students into developing, appropriate portfolio types with the appropriate learning artifacts and content. When it comes to the visibility and access, so you have options here to either select specific schools or make it visible to all schools across your district. In the grade section, this is to limit to specific grade levels. You could select all of the grades over here if you'd like to make this template visible to all students or at all grade levels across the district or across specific schools. And teacher access simply means if you want teachers within the school can view all student portfolios, or if you only like them to view their own students' portfolios. The sections portion here is equally important as the description. This is where you would be able to create those subfolders within portfolios. So it could be aligned with competencies or standards. If you have profile of a graduate, for example, you could have the different elements of the profile of a graduate here for each section. If you're going to be tracking core competencies, you could have each core competency as a separate section as well. So you could add up to 20 sections over here. I wanted to show you what this looks like with an already established portfolio. So if I just go over here and edit, this is what it would look like already populated. So we have a name that makes it very clear what the portfolio is intended for. In the description section, we explain to students and teachers, since they can see this information, what should be documented in this portfolio. We've also included the competencies, the core competencies over here, a link to the to the BC Competencies website, and also a video over here, just kind of explaining or introducing students to the portfolios feature on SpacesEDU. So really you can get creative in this multimedia section over here. In terms of visibility, we've selected specific schools or district, and you can also go ahead and select specific grades if you'd like. For the sections, we simply have the 3 different core competencies over here. If you are from BC, you may recognize these from your curriculum. Yes, so that is essentially what the process is from the admin account. As you can see, it's very straightforward. You only have a couple fields to fill out, and the rest is up to your students and your teachers to start populating those portfolios. And now I wanted to show you what the workflow would look like from a teacher and a student's perspective from their SpacesEDU account. If your students or the teacher only has one class in their SpacesEDU account, they will be directed automatically to their class when they log in. So to get to that portfolio section, they will need to click on the home button on the top left corner, and then click on the portfolios tab over here in the middle or the center of the navigation menu. And they'll be able to see all the portfolios they have access to. So if we wanted to start contributing for our students, or if our students want to start developing their portfolios, they simply have to click on the portfolio name. And for teachers, this is what the view looks like. You have your student list over here, and you can quickly add media into the specific section if you'd like. So if you click on this plus button over here, it will open up the Create a Post a dialogue. So you can start adding your media, your title, post description, and then it essentially tells you where you're trying to post this. And you can also make any modifications if needed, and choose your students if you change your mind about who you'd like to post for here. And if you'd like to see all the contents of a student's portfolio, you just have to click on their name. And as we saw earlier, you have their description over here in the home section. This is including all of the different posts across your sections. So you can also filter by section if you'd like, and take a look at what's been populated so far. You can even react to the post. You can contribute to the comments section as well, using any of the multimedia options available to you, which is pretty neat. And now from the student's account, we have the classes dashboard. So we'll have to go into the portfolios tab over here. And as you can see, we have a bunch of active portfolios that have been assigned to us. And any portfolios that are archived by our district will be in the archived section here. Still accessible, just you won't be able to populate or develop that portfolio anymore. So if we go into one of these guys over here, we can get started. So we can already see the description, what's expected of us, any resources that might be valuable and important to follow along. Then we'll click on Get Started to start contributing to the portfolio. We can go ahead and add a description here if you want a summary statement. You can instruct your students exactly what's expected, or you can give them the creative freedom to decide what they like to do with this summary statement. To start adding content, we can do this from the home section if you want, by clicking the plus create button over here, including our attachments, our text, title, and then we can also select the section we want to contribute to. So once you fill out all of these fields, It is so simple. Everything gets posted within one click. You would click the post section, or the post button rather, to contribute to the portfolio. Earlier, I had mentioned that you could copy a post from your SpacesEDU class into the portfolio. And I'm going just to quickly show you what that process looks like. So let's hop into a class real quick, and we can do this together. Let's go ahead and select a post over here. And we'll click on the three dots in the bottom right corner, click on copy post. Make sure that everything is there that we want to include. We'll go and click the portfolio tab over here. We'll say yes to switching. And as you can see, the content has transferred over. We want to select the portfolio where we want to contribute to, and then we'll select the section as well. Once we've made those post selections, we can go ahead and click post on the top right corner. And it's been successfully contributed. We can go ahead and take a look in that respective portfolio. And as you can see, it is now in the communication section. A very easy way for students to add to their portfolio. If you are already using SpacesEDU, you might want to encourage students to just make it a regular practice to document digitally. That way it makes it easier for them to just focus on the collecting aspect of portfolio development, and then they can select from that collection on SpacesEDU and add it to their portfolios. All right, so as the administrator, how will you organize your portfolio template sections? What you'll want to consider is curriculum alignment. Again, what are your objectives? For BC folks, is it for tracking core competencies to meet the reporting order? For people in the US, is it for Portrait of a Graduate to ensure students have mastered all required skills throughout their education? Is it for standards or competencies tracking? Remember, it is important to clearly communicate to your educators why these specific sections were created in the first place, so that they are adequately populated. And also think about your various grade divisions. Will you differentiate the template according to grade levels? Your sections might look different for middle school versus high school or elementary school. So that is something to consider. Lastly, I wanted to quickly recap what a quality post and artifact would look like on the SpacesEDU portfolios. We'll explore kind of what sets apart quality artifacts within ePortfolios. We're really here emphasizing the power of multimedia and effective presentation. One of the remarkable features of our platform is the capacity to incorporate multimedia elements, as we've just seen. So let's examine the different elements of a quality post. First, you want to encourage your students to have a compelling title that not only explains what the post is about, but also entices readers to dive even further into the content. For paragraphs, you want to instruct your students to break up text into short paragraphs. They can use bullet points that can work well to improve readability. Remember, students can use rich text formatting, so that is highly recommended. In terms of visuals and links, again, we have multimedia options here. Definitely encourage students to incorporate visuals to make their posts more engaging and informative. So it adds visual richness to their portfolio. Additional file types are also supported. If you like, you could scan the QR code to see our supported file type. So you can head over to our Help Center and search for file type in the search bar to see what can be uploaded to portfolios or just to SpacesEDU altogether. I do have a quick tip here for large files. If you are using cloud storage, maybe your school is using OneDrive or Google Drive, I would recommend using those cloud storages to upload your your larger files as opposed to directly from your device. So, that is a tip that I actually received from one of our SpacesEDU champions, our teacher out in Alberta. So definitely something I would recommend doing if you want to quickly upload artifacts to SpacesEDU. Proofreading. Always proofread your posts to eliminate errors and ensure clarity. This is a great tip for students. And we also want to incorporate digital citizenship into portfolio development. So telling your students to be mindful of digital citizenship principles, avoiding the disclosure of personal information or copied texts, images, work that doesn't belong to them. That might be a great way to incorporate that into a lesson. As for comments, I would definitely suggest promoting reflective comments from students and also from yourselves. So that way they feel like you're engaging with their content and they can also respond to your feedback in the comment section and have a place where all of that is beautifully documented. And finally, reflections. So again, all students at any age, whatever the age group is, should be reflecting on their learning within portfolios. We have multimedia options available, as I mentioned. So for early learners, a reflection might look like an audio or a video instead of text-based. When it comes to reflections as well, you may want to provide your students with sentence starters or reflection questions. We have some reflection questions on the SpacesEDU website as well under our resources, if you'd like to just borrow and link those in SpacesEDU. So we've already explored the various accounts and stakeholders involved. So let's just quickly recap here what we've just learned. First of all, only district administrator users with full permission can create portfolio templates. Folks at this level should expand on district objectives across grade levels to establish priorities for teachers. Teachers, on the other hand, they decide on portfolio type, maybe in collaboration with district leaders, and they should be communicating those 5 key areas we discussed, meaning the duration, content, reflection, style, and control. And lastly, students are primarily in charge of the process and product of portfolio development, regardless of age group. In fact, empower students to collect, select, reflect, and connect when they're young, promoting student ownership of learning, and as a result, that will initiate metacognition early. So you're basically going to rinse and repeat all of these steps from year to year to ensure that you're successfully launching portfolio templates. And for the district admins, knowing that you have full control of when you publish or unpublish a portfolio template, you may not even be creating templates every year. You may have templates created and remain untouched, unchanged for many years to come until there's a new curriculum initiative or any changes or any policies to come on. So it really makes it easy for you. Let's go over support and resources. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here into our websites. If we go to spacesedu.com and resources, all resources, you will see we've added new resources pertaining to portfolio specifically. So 3 new video tutorials over here that you can watch, one targeted for each stakeholder. And we also have a portfolios guide where you can download and distribute if you'd like, but essentially goes over, again, the roles and responsibilities of each stakeholder and the steps involved to be an active contributor. As for technical support, you can find Help Center articles. So if you go to the Help Center over here and type in portfolio, creating and managing portfolio templates. You may even find getting started with portfolios for teachers and students. Again, going over exactly what we've just seen today in the webinar. And if you have any questions, you are free to email our support team at hello@spacesedu.com, and we'd be happy to help you. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something new and you're just as excited as we are about portfolios, and can't wait to hear all the feedback that you have for us in terms of its usability and how it is being rolled out in your districts and schools. I'll see you next time.